Hello everyone, and welcome to the Conqueror's Guide to China. I am U60CF28, also known as Defender, and I am probably the most passionate Chinaman you might ever meet. I love China, I love this Civ. This has been my main Civ since AoE 4 released, and I've been playing AoE 4 since it released. And because it's been my main Civ for such a long time, I've developed some of my own builds for it. So what this video is supposed to be, is showing off my own homegrown build for China that I really think has a place and works. I've never seen a pro do a build like mine, but I really feel like my build has its strengths. And we'll talk about build a little later. If this video gains some popularity, I might make some videos about China-specific matchups. I already have a great idea for a China versus HRE video because that's a matchup that a lot of China mains struggle with, and I have my own unique approach to it. So, a little bit more about myself. Like I said, I am a China main. I'm also in Conqueror pretty solidly. I bounce around between Conqueror 1 and 2. As you can see, I've played a bunch of games, and this is only my main account. I actually have a secondary account where I play other civs on. But on this main account, as you can see, nearly over 95% of my games have been as China. So I just really love this Civ. I love playing it, and I really want to get more people playing it. So that's part of what this video is supposed to achieve. So, what build am I going to be showing today? Well, we are going to be showing a 2TC Song build. And this is what most China builds go for. They want to go for 2TC Song. But what makes my build different is that we go for the second town center first. And the reason why I like this build because it means you get slightly faster villager production. 1TC is like if you were in a China mirror and one player did this build, like I did this build, and the other player did the 1TC Song Dynasty first build, I would have slightly faster villager production because for a little bit I would have 2TC and they would just have 1TC Song. And for those who don't know, 2TC is obviously 2TC, but 1TC Song is only 1.5 town centers. So we would have slightly faster village production, and then we both hit 2TC Song, which is 3 town centers worth of village production. And so I'd always have this slight villager lead. I'm not saying that my build should be the go-to for every game. There are plenty of scenarios where you want to go for the more common Song Dynasty first build, and we're going to talk about that at the end of the video. And we're going to talk a little bit about certain matchups, but I really feel like my build has a place when you know you can get that second town center. So, without further ado, let's dive into the build. This is just a game versus an Abbasid intermediate AI. I just played it to showcase the build. But later on in future videos, we might have some games against other Conquerors that you can also look at. Alright, so let's dive in. So, as do most builds, we immediately send our workers to berries to build a mill, and we're going to rally our sheep onto the mill. We're going to send our scout out to find more sheep, and we're going to build an imperial official first. Now, the first big deviation I do from a lot of players is that I don't build a second scout. Since the game release, I have been particularly stubborn about not going for a second scout, so I'll only go for a second scout on 2 situations. Versus Rus, because obviously you need the second scout to deny bounty, and on Mongolian Heights, because Mongolian Heights typically has a lot of sheep on it, and so the benefit you get from going for a second scout is greater on Mongolian Heights than on other maps. But on most maps, and versus not Rus, I feel that the benefit you get from the faster villager, at least with this build, is crucial. It allows you to hit your timings so much faster. Okay, so we are going to go for 7 on food, and then we're going to rally a villager to wood, and then build a house, and then a lumber camp. This is already a big deviation. Most builds you'll see, like the Song Dynasty first build, will send their first villager to gold first. And the reason we're rallying onto wood this early is because we want to mine stone in the Dark Age, and that's what lets us get our TC super quickly. Okay, one more thing is that this build is very much so about decision, has a lot of decision points, and so here's our first decision point. I'm going to pause the replay for a second here. So, you can see that after I rally 2 onto wood, I rally directly back onto food, onto our berries. And the reason I'm doing this is because I see that the gold is closer to the berries than it is to the wood line. If the gold was closer to the wood line, I would rally more onto wood. And I'll explain why in a little bit, but that's our first decision point. So you either go 9-2, 9 on food, 2 on wood, if the gold is closer to the food, or if the gold is closer to the wood, you go 7 on food, 4 on wood. So, let's keep on going with the replay. You can see I'm going to rally up to 9 on food, which feels like a lot initially, but you'll see why in a minute. Okay, so this scout is just collecting sheep. Because I'm so used to going for one scout, I've actually gotten pretty decent at collecting a bunch of sheep with just one scout. And so if you guys wanted in the future, I could release a sheep scouting guide on how to collect like half the sheep on the map with just one scout. Okay, but back to the build. Alright, so we've mined 40 wood, you can see here with our 2 villagers. And we've also gotten 9 on food. You can see that I immediately rally my town center back onto wood, and then I pull 2 from food and send them onto gold. This is crucial. These 2 are going to gather the remaining gold we need along with taxes to get to feudal. So you see, I collected taxes. This is the time when you want to collect taxes. Right as you sent your 2 villagers onto gold, you can see they got the 50 wood to build a lumber camp. So they now the mining camp. So they build a mining camp, and now we're going to rally all our future villagers onto wood. Alright, next point now is when you get 50 more wood. As soon as you get 50 more wood, you pull 4 more villagers on food, as you see I'm doing here, and then you send them onto stone. Now, this is in the food version of the build, aka the build where I rallied 9 onto food. If you instead rallied only 7 onto food initially, and you went to 4 onto wood before pulling, and then you pulled 2 off wood onto gold, instead, you would send only 2 from food, and then pull 2 more from wood. The reason we do this, I'll explain in a minute, but just to recap, if you went 9-2 and then pulled from food onto gold, you just pull 4 more onto stone from your food. If instead you went 7-4 and then you pulled 2 from wood onto gold, then once it comes time to pull onto stone, you pull 2 from food and 2 from wood and send them to stone. And again, we'll explain why in a second. So, these guys are now mining stone. We are mining stone in the Dark Age. And now we build the lumber camp, the mining camp. Okay, and here's the next part. We want to pull these villagers off gold as soon as we mine 60 gold. So you can see here, 3940. That's a number you want to keep in mind. 3940 is when you want to pull off and then send these villagers back. Now, where do you send them back? I sent them to food here because we pulled all 4 of our stone villagers from food. But that's why these gold villagers had to go back to food. Whereas if I had pulled 2 from food and 2 from wood, we would send these gold villagers back to wood. And that's where the early decision making comes in because this minimizes our walk time. This way, the gold villagers are always traveling the least amount of distance in order to go to the other resources. So that's the reason for all this complex decision making. I know going to be pretty complicated. There'll be a written document to accompany this build that you guys can see, and so hopefully you guys can use that as a resource. Okay, so at the same time we're pulling off of gold, we also collect taxes. This should give you basically exactly 200 gold to use our taxes, and then you can see here we'll have basically exactly what we need to get the feudal. And I'll do this and pull one villager to build the Imperial Academy. Against most civs, we'll build the Imperial Academy. I'll get into some deviations versus like French and English, where you may want to build the Barbican first. But with the Imperial Academy buff against most civs, and especially versus Abbasid in this example, you definitely want to build the Imperial Academy. So, we are going to keep on rallying onto wood. And now that we're approaching supply block, you can see that we're also going to put our Imperial official onto wood. And here you can see that now we have exactly enough wood to build a village. This is another reason why I like this build. It lets you get a village super quickly instead of a second house, and so you benefit from the wood savings from that village the earliest. So we're going to rally villagers until we have 8 on wood. Then we're going to rally onto gold. And you can see I'm going to set that rally in a minute. Oh, my scout's coming back to pull some sheep. Yep, you can see I set this rally. And we're just going to speed this replay up a bit. We are slowly mining the necessary stone. Sending the sheep, rallying onto gold. And then, we like with the gold, we want to keep an eye on our stone count. We want to pull off stone as soon as we hit 300 stone. And you can see here, we basically hit a perfect timing. As soon as we finished feudal, we mined 300 stone. 301 stone, not perfect I know, but nobody's perfect. And so these 4 stone villagers we immediately pull off and we send them to build the town center. This villager building the landmark, it's going to go and mine gold. So we're going to see them build the town center. Now, in some scenarios, you may find that it doesn't line up perfectly. Sometimes you won't have mined enough stone, or sometimes your landmark still won't be done even though you've mined 300 stone. That's fine. In the latter case, if the landmark isn't done yet, I would send these 4 villagers to finish the landmark just because, they're not really doing much. So they're just waiting around, so you might as well send them to finish the landmark faster. So, these 4 villagers are going to build the town center. I am also, being a Chinaman, I'm also quite particular about my base design. We'll finish the space designs here. Okay, so, something you just saw there. We also just pulled 3 villagers off of wood, and we're sending them onto food. Because now we want to go for the Barbican and the Song Dynasty, and we're going to need a lot of food for that. And we don't really need that much wood anymore, because we're already starting our town center. Again, this is pretty this is our standard, but there are some variations against certain civs, and I'll talk a little bit about that at the end of our video. Okay. So, these guys start the town center. Keep in mind, we start our town center at 5:30. I think that might be the fastest town center that China can get. Also, you can see here that we sent our Imperial official to collect taxes from both the lumber camp and the mill. I manually collected those taxes because they're crucial for getting our next step, which is getting wheelbarrow. So you can see, these guys are almost going to finish collecting gold for wheelbarrow, and as soon as we hit 150 gold, we start wheelbarrow. And the Imperial official is supervising the mill, so we're getting it faster. Quick aside, my scout's doing some scouting here. I plan on talking a bit more about scouting in this Civ specific guide, so in this video I'm not really going to talk about scouting. Scouting's pretty different in every Civ matchup, so we're not really going to talk about scouting here. Okay, after this town center completes, look, it completes around 6 minutes, which is, again, very quick. We're going to rally this town center onto food. Like, we want as much food as possible for the Barbican. So, yep. And now, once we get enough resources to get the Barbican, I'm going to speed up the replay a little bit. I want to talk about where do you put your Barbican. So, There are basically two options. One, you can put the Barbican in a defensive setup, which again, against a civ like French, maybe you probably want to do, or against like a civ like or against like a more like an aggressive civ, or like against Mongols, you probably want to put the Barbican at home defensively, or you can put the Barbican in the forward position against like a civ that you know isn't going to be aggressive. So since we're up against the AI, I decide to put my Barbican in the aggressive position. You can see I'm sending these 5 gold villagers out to do that. And then we're going to pull 1 from food, and we're going to rally 2 more villagers out. So for a total of 8 villagers to build the forward Barbican. And the reason we're doing this is because if you're going to put your Barbican aggressively, you should put it on the board. Let's talk a little bit about decision making on whether to be an aggressive or defensive Barbican. So, like I said, you definitely should use your Barbican at home if you think you're up against some kind of feudal aggression, like against a Rus one town center push, or against like a Mongol feudal aggressive push, definitely against French, probably versus English. Against the Bassid, you can probably safely go for this aggressive town center on the board. So this one I'm going to showcase now. Also note that we've kept 5 on wood this entire time, so you can actually go for, say, a barracks and a couple of spearmen if you feel like you need them to get this aggressive Barbican up. Like if you spot a stable from your opponent and you don't want your villagers to get hit by horsemen while they're building the Barbican, then you can put down a barracks and put out like 2 early spearmen. And 2 spearmen should let you get up that Barbican safely. So, now that we've rallied 8 villagers out, and we've got the attacks again, we're going to rally the remaining villagers onto gold, because we want to replace those gold villagers. Meanwhile, I've sent these villagers out, and they are going to put the Barbican here. And this is what you're looking for when you go for a forward Barbican. You want it to be covering as much as possible. So this Barbican covers the sacred site, a relic, and the board. This is like the best case scenario. Or like another option, this would also be a decent option. It covers a sacred site, the board, and 2 gold mines. But I would say that this area is slightly better because this is also more toward the center of the map, so you benefit a little bit more from the map control and the vision that this Barbican gives. So, we got 8 villagers building the Barbican. We are rallying villagers onto gold, and we are also building more Imperial officials from the Imperial Academy. This one's going to supervise gold because I find that we actually don't have too much gold this build. Okay, we finished the Barbican, and now we take the board with our villagers. Here's something important. You want to use the Barbican to shoot the boar, because if you use the Barbican to shoot the boar, you generally won't lose a villager. You should also try micro villagers just in case you might lose one. You can see I microway and injured one here, but I might not need to do that, all because the Barbican is also shooting the boar. Okay, so we've gone to 6 on gold. We've gotten 3 Imperial officials, and we'll be getting a 4th shortly, and we're researching survival techniques. This is going to massively boost our food income. In fact, I've discovered that it boosts our food income so much that we actually need to go to possibly 8 or 10 on gold, and you're going to see me do that in a little bit. So let's speed through. And this is when the build starts to come down to what you've scouted and what you need to do. Like, if you've scouted that your opponent has feudal production, you need to throw down feudal production of your own. Because this is a very greedy build and you cannot skimp on an army. You can see we have the wood bank down to throw down almost, like, to throw down 3 production structures. Like, Jugunu, very good for defense, Spearmen, Horsemen, whatever you need to counter the enemy's composition. This is what your scouts should be looking for. We'll talk a little bit more about what I like to build, like what unit composition I like to go for in the Civ matchup specific videos, but just keep in mind that if you scout feudal aggro, you need to throw down production now, and possibly also walls. Like I could wall off here and here. Now, since this is versus the AI, and this is the intermediate AI isn't going to attack me, I'm just going to go for a fast castle here. So we rally to 8 on gold for our so we can get our castle in time, and you can see how much food we're making. Like, this is actually an amazing amount of food. Like, I have to go to 10 on gold just to make sure we have enough food and gold at the same time. Rallying up to, I believe, 28 on food. These numbers don't need to be exact. Like, and obviously, if you need to build an army in feudal, I would rally more onto wood and less onto gold, and possibly less onto food as well. Like, I would say if you were building a feudal army right now, you would pull 4 villagers off of food, so only 24 on food, and send them to wood. And then you would rally more villagers onto wood, and maybe a couple more onto gold if you're building Jugnu and getting blacksmith upgrades. But this is good for the fast castle. Oh, these villagers were idle for a second. And now we start the castle. Now, since the rest of this replay isn't too useful because, you know, it's versus the AI, what I literally do is I just build knights and palace guard and Jugnu and just kill them. I get pretty lazy because, you know, again, it's versus the AI. I'm gonna speed through the rest of this replay because there is one thing I want to show you at the end. You can see here, yeah, we're going for triple stable because the AI isn't even gonna hit castle in this game. Like, we're just gonna kill him with knights and palace guard. We build the monastery, take the relics. You can see I start my farm transition here. Here's something I do want to hit. You do want to start your farm transition pretty quickly because 2 TC Song consumes a lot of food, and since this is a very defensive build, you're not going to have too much map control besides what the Barb King gives you. So instead, you want to make sure you have a lot of farms. And that's part of the reason why I'm rallying so much onto wood. If you notice through the rest of this replay, you'll see that I rally a ton onto wood, and I'm spending all of that wood on farms and infrastructure. Like, a big mistake I see a lot of people make, especially a lot of new people, is that they don't rally enough onto wood. Wood is crucial at this phase in the game, in late feudal, early castle. Okay, so throwing down infrastructure. My knights are doing run-bys against the AI, the poor AI. We're just gonna speed through this replay. I am a little lazy in this game because it's versus the AI. I don't really do multi-pronged harass or micro my knights at all. I am collecting relics, and another thing I do is I don't get up my production as quickly as I should be. But you can see how much I'm rallying onto wood right now. We're throwing about production. I'll talk a little bit about production numbers. I generally, since I like to change up my composition as the situation demands, I don't like to stick with one composition, I generally will start off in early mid-castle by going for 3 of each production structure. So 3 stables, 3 barracks, and 3 archery ranges, and then of course the astronomical clock tower. Then, as castle progresses, I will gradually work my way up to 6 of each production structures. So 6 barracks, 6 archery ranges, and 6 stables, and then I'll add in a siege workshop with my astronomical clock tower. This kind of setup, I feel, is the best for China because this, combined with the Imperial Official Supervision, allows you to tech switch super easily and always be countering the enemy composition. Again, we're just going to speed for the rest of this replay. The main thing I want to do is I want to show you my base setup right as we hit Imperial. Also, yeah, you can see how much wood we're spending. We're building farms, we're building infrastructure, you need a lot of wood. Keep in mind this sort of setup. This sort of macro setup. This is the setup you need, I feel, in order to get Imperial. Also, unlike a lot of players, I don't really go for early stone in castle. I know a lot of players like going for stone to throw down aggressive keeps and stuff. I just really don't like aggressive keeps. It just feels like a cheesy, gimmickly play. So no shame to the people that do. It's a perfectly valid way to play. You can do that. I'm not the type to get salty about it. Sometimes I get salty, but I personally just prefer to go for a more unit-heavy playstyle with plenty of production, with plenty of farms. It's just a more fun way for me to play. So yeah, the composition I'm building here is Palace Guard, Lancer, Jugnu. This is the best composition against someone who's stuck in feudal, but this composition is really just because it's the AI, and the AI is pretty bad. Okay, you can see I've gotten my 3-3-3 setup. I'm floating a little bit of food. I mean wood here. Oh, okay, not anymore. I wonder what I just spent it on. I spent it on something. But I should be adding more production at this time if this was a real game. Like, if this was a real game, I definitely should be adding more production at this point. What am I spending my wood on? Oh, I'm spending my wood on trebs, actually. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm spending my wood on trebs just because I just want to kill this AI quickly. But generally at this time, you would be adding on more production. A common mistake a lot of people make is not adding on enough production, therefore they can't really spend the money. You can see even here that I'm floating gold because I stopped making Lancers. But you can see we maxed out really quickly. And now you can see we've almost got the resources to go to Imperial, and now you can see that I'm adding on production. Again, 666 is what I like to have to go into Imperial, and then as I'm in Imperial, I like to go to 10, 10, 10, 12, 12, 12, and even 15, 15, 15 in the super late game. Having lots of production is key to winning the late game in this game. Okay, so this is the last thing I wanted to show up, especially since we're about to start Imperial any second now. Okay. Yep. So I start Imperial, and this is what I'm going to end the video on. I always like going the Spirit Way. I vastly prefer the Spirit Way to the Great Wall Gatehouse, mainly because I love Jugnu and Imperial. They're like one of my favorite units. Jugnu with the Elite upgrade, Incendiary Arrows, the Blacksmith upgrades, and the Spirit Way effect are actually one of the most awesome units to use. But the last thing I want to show you is my base layout. I am very particular about my base layout. Because you can see here, I have basically all my production, my blacksmith, in this Imperial Academy radius, and I've also put all 3 of my granaries in Imperial Academy radius. So this does sacrifice a little bit of the food stacking effect, but I like it because 1, it obviously doubles the tax gold that these granaries produce, so you actually get a very good passive gold source in the late game from these granaries. And 2, you see these granaries are in the back of my base, they're very compact, so they're pretty safe. Like I can put walls here, I can put walls here. So these granaries are a lot safer than if you were to stick them in the corner here. So that's why I like this setup. Later on, obviously you want to add more farms. Like in the late game, I'll go up to 50 farms, and you just stick them around these granaries. Like I'll stick 2 here, and then I'll fill in this entire back row, and that's exactly 50 farms. And that's how much I feel China needs in the late game. So, that is my approach to playing China. I hope you guys enjoy. I'd love to hear you guys' feedback, and if you want to see more videos like this, I do plan on making a China versus HRE video in the future very soon, so keep an eye out for that. And hey, if you guys really like this, maybe we'll make some more. Again, this is Defender U60CF28 signing off. Hail China! 万岁! 万岁! 万万岁!